Sup YouTube, it's Zabdo's TCG here and welcome back to our TCG video on my channel. Today we're talking about the top 10 strongest Pokemon cards ever printed. Don't believe me, while Pokemon banned 80% of the cards we're talking about today, so they are most likely really broken and will never be printed again, let's be honest. So let's dive into the journey of time with a lot of Pokemon cards that will have yourself some bad memories or crazy nightmares, as to speak, because they were so disgustingly good. If there is a card out there that I did not put in the top 10, let me know in the comment section as well which other cards you personally feel that are very strong throughout the years in time. So this is my personal opinion. Let's get it going with number 10, Archeops. I'm not talking about the Archeops, which can get energies from the deck. I'm talking about Archeops from Noble Victories, which blocks evolution Pokemon from being played on the opponent's side of the field. Which, with an ability, how crazy is that? Out of nowhere, your Blastoise deck, your Vespiquen deck, your Greninja Break deck was unplayable because you can no longer evolve. How crazy was that? You might think, oh, Zapdos, this is an evolution Pokemon that requires fossil Pokemon and all that, and that mechanic is really bad, so why was it actually banned? Well, glad you asked. Yeah, Archeops was able to get summoned because... No, not Lugia V-Star, I got you there, right? Yeah, it was able to get summoned because Maxie's Hidden Ball Trick. That's right, you could get summoned an Archeops out of nowhere. Seems to be Archeops' thing, right? But not being able to evolve your Pokemon any longer was way too crazy to pass off, and Pokemon had to ban it eventually because evolving is part of the TCG, right? And if you're not able to do that, it's just very, very strong. Number 9 is going to be a shared place between Uxie, the OG, and Shaymin-EX. Both of them draw cards. Both of them are stackable. Let's talk about the journey of Uxie. Uxie from the Legends Awakened set was able to draw cards until you have 7 when you slap it down on the bench. Back in the days, they had Pokepowers, Pokebodies, did the fusion. There are abilities right now in the current modern time and age, but back then they were Pokepowers. Also stackable, by the way. So you slap down Uxie, you draw until you have 7. Play some cards, slap down another Uxie, draw until you have 7. You see where we're going with this? Because Uxie was just universally a very strong card being played in all the decks out there. The Uxie was actually abused with Shuppet. There was a Shuppet out there called the Shuppet Donk deck because it was able to, yeah, you guessed it, you could win on the very first turn because you had plus powers to boost your damage output. You had Crobat G, when you slap it down you put some damage on the opponent. You have Expert Belt. All those cards in combination made sure that Uxie with draw power was just crazy strong. It was never banned, but Uxie, we will never see a card like Uxie ever again because now in the modern TCG they printed a card like Crobat V, which was limited with once during your turn. So talking about once during your turn, Shaymin-EX was definitely not once during your turn. Draw cards until you have 6. Not only is this very easily searchable through the means of Hoopa-EX, which allowed you to get the Shaymins out of nowhere. We had Skyfield to allow you to have a bench up to 8 Pokemon. That meant you could slap down all your Shaymins until your heart's content, and with cards like Ultra Ball to tin your hand, you could basically draw your entire deck on the very first turn. That seems ridiculous, I know. Eventually, Pokemon had to ban Shaymin-EX in the expanded format because they actually released the card Scoop Up Net, which allowed you to actually scoop up and put the Shaymin-EX in your hand. It was not designed that way, and it led to a lot of crazy toxic expanded decks out there. So it is banned. They have both shared the number 9 spot, Uxie and Shaymin-EX, because draw power like this will never exist again because we've seen with Crobat V that they will limit it once during a turn. Number 8, evolution cheating slash, the broken time space. And I'm also going to be putting Forest of Giant Plants on here because they both share the similar role, is to cheat the evolution. If you want to evolve, a Pokemon needs to be in turn for at least one play, right? Yeah, I know, but with broken time space, the card already stated it is broken. You could, skip that clause entirely, and then you can just get your Pokemon out. This made sure that cards like Machamp from Stormfront was able to get out on the very first turn, and you were able to attack, so stuff like that was really, really nasty because a turn 1 Machamp donking people, again, donking and Pokemon, they don't like it, so there was that. There was also Forest of Giant Plants. You might think donking is bad. How about a turn 1 item lock? Because Vileplume was also in the same format, the Forest of Giant Plants allowed you to get it out on turn 1. Yeah, making sure the opponent is not able to play item cards for the rest of the game. I know. On top of that, there were even stronger grass types out there, like the Decidueye GX with a humongous amount of HP and a strong ability to snipe. That meant that if you get the Forest of Giant Plants, this deck was one of the strongest out there. Forest of Giant Plants actually banned and expanded, so a lot of these crazy, cheating evolution kind of stuff get banned eventually if Pokemon decides that it makes the game unfair. In this situation, the turn 1 item lock with Vileplume doesn't feel like fun. Talking about unfair, here we have Ghetsis on number 7. Ghetsis. Who remembers Ghetsis, right? You can look at the opponent's hands, got a little bit left and right, and they have to put the items back in their deck. Out of nowhere, Ultra Ball, Nazball, Level Ball, Computer Surge, Battle Compressor, Versus Seeker and all that back into the opponent's hand, and back into the opponent's deck. And that meant the opponent would be with an almost unplayable hand, definitely paired up with Silent Lab, shutting down basic abilities, so stuff like Shaymin-EX will no longer work. This is actually very scary because you can go Ghetsis, Silent Lab and win games, and that's exactly what happened. Pokemon had to ban Ghetsis here because it is just such a nasty card. Number 6, again, unfair shenanigans, Marshadow from Shining Legends. With the Let Loose ability, how many games have you personally lost because of the Marshadow right here? Let me know in the comments down below. So you snap down Marshadow onto your bench. Both players shuffle their hand into their deck and draw 4 fresh cards. You can use this on your very first turn, meaning that you can put the opponent to only a 4-card hand on the very first turn. If their opening hand is bad, well, they can no longer play the game because their options will be more limited. So Marshadow was also played with a very fast and aggressive Pikachu and Zekrom Tag Team GX deck, and that meant that Marshadow, definitely in the expanded format, got banned. I didn't love playing against any player out there slapping down turn 1 Let Loose because a lot of these games I actually lost. Okay, also be sure to check out the sponsors for today's video. Before we go into the top 5, there are dragonshield.com for sleeves, binders, and deck boxes. There's a coupon on the screen right now which you can use for percentages off. TC Evolutions for your damage counters and ability tokens. Potown Store for TCG live code cards. You can use the coupon TCG for 5% off to max up your rarity in TCG Live. And cardmarket.com for European players where you're able to buy as well as sell cards to people all across Europe. Okay, number 5. Oranguru. Oranguru did not get banned, but I hated Oranguru because with the resource management, it allowed you to put 3 cards from your discard pile on the bottom of the deck. And if you have a 0-card deck, you immediately draw into those cards again and you loop very, very scary cards. I'm gonna mention you cards like Crushing Hammer that can be infinitely looped. Cards like Jesse and James in combination with Chip Chip Ice Axe were very, very nasty. Chip Chip Ice Axe allowed you to control the opponent's top deck by looking at the top 3 cards of the deck. The Jesse and James allowed both players to discard 2 cards from hand. So sometimes paired up with a reset stamp, pushing the opponent to a low hand size. With Jesse and James, they were at a 0-card hand, while you use the Chip Chip Ice Axe to control the opponent's top deck. I know, the opponent will not be, they will be hand locked, there was nothing they could do, and the Oranguru could keep looping their resources. And that's why I really, really hated Oranguru from the Ultra Prism set, and I'm glad it's gone because that was a deck that I did not love playing against because when they got the lock off, you just lose. And yeah, that's Oranguru for you guys. So control cards have always been crazy in the game. And talking about control cards, number 4, Lieutenant Surge's strategy. This is a supporter. If you're behind in prizes, you can actually play 2 more supporters during your turn. That meant Lieutenant Surge allows crazy combos. The craziest combo I could think of right now, because there was a lot of looping going around. The craziest combo was Belelba and Bryson Man. This actually was just a crazy milling card, and with Lieutenant Surge you can play 2 of these monstrosities, and the deck pretty much was that with Lieutenant Surge you fall behind in prizes, you play some Crushing Hammers to slow the opponent down, Belelba and Bryson Man, you play 2 of them at the same time, you Palpat the Belelba and Bryson Man's back, use Oranguru to get the Palpats back, and it was just nasty because you just mill so incredibly fast, and then there was the Macargo GX to mill even further. So yeah, eventually the Lieutenant Surge's strategy was banned because using 2 supporters after that, it's just crazy because supporters are so powerful in the game. Pokemon knows that if you unleash the Lieutenant Surge in the expanded format, the control and locking decks will have it have a great time because it's just such a strong card. Okay, number 3, Lysandre's trump card, also banned. Okay, what can I say? Both players shuffled their entire discard pile into their deck. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. It's like a fan-made card. This will means that Pokemon players cannot deck ouch, but more importantly, they can loop their crazy strategies with Crushing Hammers, Hypnotoxic Laser, Steam Flare Grunt, Scoop Up Cyclone, actually Super Scoop Up, that's also stuff that work with Seismitoad EX and the DTE, actually, yeah, the DCE back in the days. Also paired with that item locking Quaking Punch, meant that, yeah, that was just so nasty. Lysandre's trump card meant that the opponent had infinite resources and you could just item lock the opponent out of existence. And yeah, Lysandre's trump card is just, imagine you play 4 Crushing Hammers. It's like, oh, the opponent flipped 4 tails. I'm good. And they play Lysandre's trump card and out of nowhere, they're all back in the deck. That's just so incredibly frustrating. Eventually they banned Lysandre's trump card. Number 2 for me personally, Arceus, Dialga and Palkia Tag Team GX. I know, people have been telling stories about this guy. Altered Creation GX allowed you to actually stop 30 more damage during your entire rest of the game and take an additional prize card for every Pokemon you knocked out. I know, that crazy GX attack was insane. It was completely broken once Pokemon released Zacian V. With the Intrepid Sword, you can just draw a lot of cards and also sometimes accelerate energies. With that, you could E-switch the energy with something like Metal Saucer to, of course, accelerate the metal energy. There was the Dene GX to allow you to just go crazy with your turn and then E-switch the energy from your Zacian onto your ADP and then attach your water energy and off you go. Alter Creation GX, turn 1 of the game. And if that happens, you know the clock is ticking because in 2 turns the game's over. If ADP was able to knock out a Shaymin, or maybe not, it was the Dene GX back in the day, they would take 3 prize cards. If they knock out an Oranguru GX, 3 prize cards. It was insane like that. I played ADP during the online era and I was able to beat the strongest players in the world, including stuff like Tord Radcliffe. There was a Players Cup where I was able to win because ADP was just disgustingly strong. I paired it up with Mawile to scout the opponent's hand, and that meant I could just drag some Pokemon from the hand onto the bench so I can target them down with Great Catcher, instantly putting them to the active, slapping them down with the ADP and taking all my prize cards, and 2 attacks of my ADP, I won the game. That is one of the strongest effects in the game I have ever seen. Taking additional prize cards, we've seen stuff like this with Iron Hands in the modern days, but yeah, ADP was just a scary monstrosity, and if it wasn't for COVID, I think Pokemon might have also banned this one. Not a lot of decks could stand toe-to-toe with ADP in the format. Next is going to be my number 1 pick. Yeah, before we go into number 1, also be sure, of course, to, yeah, if you've come this far, destroy the hell out of the like button. Helps out in many ways to support the channel, and subscribe if you want to see more Pokemon videos like this one. Okay, number 1. It's going to be Sableye. Sableye is one of the very few cards in existence, it's the one from Stormfront by the way, that caused an emergency rotation because it was dominating the scene. Let me just state you this. Sableye had a Pokebody. Back in the days, Pokebodies were actually abilities, but more on that later. So if Sableye is your active Pokemon, at the beginning of the game, you go first. If each player's active Pokemon has the Overgear Pokebody, this power does nothing. So if you start with Sableye, you go first. Depending on the coin flip, it does not matter at all. So a very crazy part about Sableye is that the player going first could just get crazy combos going because you had, I mentioned, Crobat, you had Poketurn to get the Crobat back in hand, and with the black and white rules, you had no limitations on your very first turn. Meaning you can force going first and you can donk people, and being able to force your destiny by just going first with the Sableye, it caused an emergency rotation, and for me, causing an emergency rotation just means it is one of the strongest, if not the strongest card out there. If a card just forces Pokemon to mid-season rotate out of nowhere because it just is that strong, you know Pokemon will never print something like this again. Yeah, the Sableye allowed you actually, if the defending Pokemon has fewer HP than Sableye, this attack does 40 damage. You can attack on your very first turn, might I add, in the format, meaning 40 damage with yeah, stuff like Crobat, with the plus powers and all that, Expert Belt even. Yeah, the Sableye just knocked everything out. Even if the opponent had a 120 HP basic to start off with, you could just donk it and you will be able to go first, and it was just not fun playing the game. A lot of decks were just Sableye, and yeah, that's why Pokemon decided to ban it eventually by going with a mid-season rotation. It didn't get banned initially, but with the mid-season rotation, it pushed it out of the format instantly. That's what it was. So yeah, that is my top 10 most strongest cards I could think of in this list. If you have any other cards out there, little honorable mention for Puzzle of Time. The reason I didn't include it was because it was only powerful with Zoroark EX and the powerful trade ability. Also stuff like Superior Energy Retrieval was one of that I didn't put on the list. Energy Disruption is crazy. Pokemon Catcher, the original one from I was Emerging Powers, I suppose. Also didn't make the list, but also very strong. But there's way more strong cards out there, and I want to hear your opinion down below in the comment section. Go crazy, and I want to hear any strong card you have experience with to let me know why you personally would have put in the top 10 list. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your day. Thanks again for joining in today. This was Sableye's TCG, and I will see you guys tomorrow for more Pokemon TCG content. Peace.